Hey, welcome to this mama's house. Today I'm going to give you a tour of my garden. Hey guys, if you're new here, welcome. My name is Tabitha. On this channel I post all sorts of homemaking stuff. I post videos about cooking, cleaning, grocery hauls, and today I'm going to share with you my vegetable garden. I put this garden in this year. It took a lot of work and I did 98% of the work, but I'm really proud of it. And I asked over on my Instagram if you guys wanted to see a tour of the garden, and I was overwhelmed with how many people were interested in that. And I also asked on the community tab here on YouTube, and so many of you wanted to see what I've got going on in this garden. So just a little bit of a background. I have had a garden in some form for the past 10 years. Every single year besides 1 year when we were traveling the country in our RV. I didn't have a garden then, but I have had raised beds, I've rototilled and planted into the ground, we've had pots, we've done all sorts of different methods of gardening, and I think this year is definitely my favorite garden yet. It turned out really, really well, and I'm excited to share with you what we have growing in here. It's so rewarding to grow your own food. I highly recommend it to anyone. There's still a little bit of time left in a lot of areas to plant, so definitely check on your seed packets to see how long you have to harvest some vegetables. You might have time to plant a few pots or something. Like I said, it's just so rewarding, and I think it's really fun. So I guess I'll just show you around a little bit. I'm gonna show you a before and after on what this garden looked like when there was nothing here and what it looks like now. So let's start with that and then we'll give you the tour. So I wanted to share a little bit about how I did this in case you like what you see and you want to try it. So what I did, I ordered 1x12 boards as well as these corner blocks, and I just laid them out. I was thinking about making them smaller, but I liked the large beds, and then I lined them with cardboard and straw, and that was to kill the grass. Now that's the same thing I did in between to make a path. I laid the cardboard and straw down on the grass in order to kill it. And then I also had a huge truckload of garden soil as well as mulch delivered. I filled the beds up with the garden soil and I laid the mulch around the beds. So that is how I installed it. It took about a week to get it all done. I just worked a couple hours a day and I just love the results. But now on to the tour. So I have two ways that I like to water. I either water by hand with that little sprayer there, or I hook up my big sprinkler and I set it out in the yard. And then I have this nifty timer that's just an app on my phone, and I can time it and set it and run it whenever I want. So I love that, and I will definitely link it down in the description box. I got it off of Amazon, so if you have something that you need to water and you don't want to have to, remember or be home for it, that's the perfect solution. We go camping often and I don't want my garden and my big investment that I've put in with money and time to be dried up. So that's why I got that. And that's how I keep everything watered, and I always water in the morning. Right, in this first bed here we have quite a bit growing. This plant right here is broccoli. As you can see, I have a broccoli head. Now this is just about ready to harvest, and it turned out to be really, really small. This is only my second time growing broccoli. Look how tiny this one is. It just worked out that way. I'm not sure what I could have done differently. I'm suspecting that possibly the caterpillars that got to this contributed to the small heads, but it is what it is. I did harvest on this plant, and you can see here like an offshoot is growing, so we'll be able to harvest again over here. Another one has been harvested and some more will grow. See, I don't know if you noticed that little white caterpillar or that little white moth that just flew out of here. Those are what has caused this damage, because the caterpillars of those moths like to eat my broccoli, and they definitely have been doing that. So next to the broccoli here, these two plants are habaneros. So for a lot of this season so far, I have picked off all of the flowers and all of the peppers that have started to grow, and I've just kind of let them bush out and get big before letting them set fruit. Now they are definitely setting lots of fruit. You can see a little habanero right here and tons of flowers. So I think we're gonna have a good harvest of habanero peppers that I plan to pickle and keep for the long haul. Over here I have 5 Brussels sprout plants. Now Brussels sprouts are kind of interesting because they grow on the stem of the plant. You can see them starting to form right here above the leaves, and I'm excited. My kids love Brussels sprouts. I do see that we have something eating the leaves here as well. I might try to do some research to see if I can stop that, because these won't be able to be harvested for quite a while now, and I don't want them to die before they're able to produce the Brussels sprouts that we want. So that's what those are. These orange flowers that you see all around the garden are marigolds. I'm told they're supposed to keep pests out, but anyways, they add really pretty flowers to the garden, and I like them, and they also cover the ground as kind of a natural mulch. This whole row here is jalapenos. My husband loves jalapenos, and we are getting a ton coming in, so these will be really good for him. He loves to have them on his tacos. All of these plants have tons of jalapenos on them. Right here I have a bunch of onions. This is my first year planting onions, so I don't even know how many, maybe 100 onions that I purchased for only $2. So that is amazing, but they're starting to fall over in some areas, and I'm not sure why that is, because they are definitely not ready yet. I think it could be some of the storms that we had coming through, just the inconsistency with how much water they've been getting, but we're gonna just let them go and see what happens. Over here I have some green beans. Now I have 4 green bean plants. This is 2 here and then 2 here. These will send off shoots at some point, and then they will climb up the poles. So I have the poles set there for that. And then this right here is a butternut squash plant. So I was hoping that these green beans would be done, and then this butternut squash would kind of just take over this area right here in the garden. So that is the first bed, what I've planted in here, and it's been turning out really good. So like I said, I've harvested broccoli out of here. I've harvested a couple of the onions just to have as like the small green onions when we wanted to try them. So that's what's over here. And then in this little apple crate, I got these apple crates off of Facebook Marketplace. I planted green beans in here, and you can see that they grew up the pole just like they were supposed to, and then they set off the flowers to produce the green beans, and then it just died on the end. So I really don't know what happened here, but it just happened throughout the entire plant. I was so excited to get so many green beans, and then they just dried and up right at the end. So it was really strange, and I still can't really figure out what happened. I'm not sure if it's the size of the container or what, but that's what it is. So I'm actually just gonna leave these here. I'm wondering if it has to do with the heat, and then maybe as it cools down later in the season, they may produce green beans again. So we're holding on to hope for that. We'll see what happens. This cute little garden rake I got at a, what are they called? Estate sales. So I thought that was really cute, and I just like having it in here. I don't really use it, but I like it. So this garden bed over here is full of more awesome vegetables. I planted a bunch of carrots here. Now, if I ever plant carrots again, which I probably will, I will do it a lot differently. I will sow the carrots much more patiently, I should say. Instead of, I just made rows and just sprinkled very heavily, and then thinning the carrots was a huge chore. So next time I would definitely space them out as I was planting them. But these are going to be harvested much later in the fall, and we'll see what I get. I'm excited. This right here is a stevia plant. If you are unfamiliar with what stevia is, its leaves are used to sweeten things. So stevia leaves are actually 300, oh, did that just break? Oh, well, I just harvested some. Thanks for harvesting with me, guys. So stevia leaves are 300 times sweeter than sugar. So I will bring these in and dry them out. You can use them in tea. You could crush them and add them to baked goods. It's just a really, really good herb to have. I love it. So these right here are different kinds of green peppers, yellow peppers, orange peppers, and red peppers. So I've got a couple growing on here, as you can see. Again, this, just like the other peppers, I picked off a lot of the fruit in early season just to let them get bigger, and I'm really happy with how tall they are and how big they are. So now I'm letting them set fruit, and we'll see how they go. I know I've never really had much success with peppers, so this year I'm hoping things are different. I definitely pruned them differently this year, so I'm expecting different results. Here I have some snow peas. Now I actually already came out here earlier and I picked a bunch off and I ate them. They hardly ever make it to the inside of the house. Here's one right here, but I just popped those off and they put out, I probably get maybe 10 a day off of there, but they're so delicious and they grow really, really fast. They're yellowing at the bottom, so I don't know if that means that they're almost done or if they need nutrients. So I did fertilize them the other day. I'm just using an organic garden tone fertilizer, and it doesn't seem to have made much difference yet. We'll see. More peppers here, more marigolds, tons of marigolds. This right here is another stevia plant, and then along this row I planted cantaloupe. So you can see this rectangle here that's more exposed soil. I originally in the spring planted radishes right here, and radishes harvest really quickly, about 21 days. So now that I've pulled up all of the radishes, I'm kind of replacing those. So right here I planted some tomatoes. Now these tomatoes are actually cuttings from my other plants that I'll show you in a minute, but I just popped off like some of the suckers like this right here, and I put them in a glass of water and they all sent out roots, and then I put them right here in the garden. So these tomatoes I'm expecting will be done before the cantaloupe. So once these are pulled, then the cantaloupe will have this whole area to take over, because those plants will get rather large, and then we'll have cantaloupe right here. I also planted radishes in between the carrots, so those grew together, and then I've already harvested the radishes, and now the carrots have all the room to grow. Once I pull the broccoli out, I will probably put something else in there. So I'm gonna try to always keep the garden full as long as possible, as long as the growing season will allow. So I think I'm gonna plant either beets right there or maybe another round of radishes. We'll see. And I might do a fall patch of like zucchini and squash. So then over here we have another nice little growing area. Back here you can hardly even see them, but I have 3 more of those apple crates, and what I planted in there are potatoes. another plant I've never grown. This is the first year. You can see the container a lot better down there. But I planted 6 potatoes per thing, and then once they start to flower, I guess is when they start to actually produce the potatoes underground. So these will be a late fall harvest as well. Once they all turn brown and yellow and kind of fall over, then we'll be ready to dig the potatoes up, and I can't wait to see what happens and what we get. Right here along this trellis I have zucchini. So I have 3 zucchini plants. They had a rough start, but they seem to be producing good now. And then right in front along this trellis, I have yellow squash. 2 plants made it through. They had some spider mites from the greenhouse. So I did use some neem oil and that took care of it. Like I said, they had a slow start, but they seem to be doing okay now. And then right here, I have a cucumber, and only 1 out of 4 that I planted survived. So I ended up planting some sugar baby watermelon right underneath. And I think that once the cucumbers are done, then the watermelon will have all this space, or they can even just grow right here as the summer goes on. So underneath my deck, this is my deck right here, this is where I planted like kind of my leafy vegetables, because leafy vegetables don't really like full sun. They do really well in shade. So that's what I decided to do. And I actually put pallets here. I put some garden cloth underneath the pallets and stapled them on, and then filled them with dirt, and that's where I planted my lettuce. So you can see this head of lettuce is looking amazing. It's probably ready to be harvested. It's so big. And then I also have some curly leaf lettuce. It's just looking really good. We've harvested a couple, you can see. But this is where I put my lettuce patch, and I have had no problems with things bolting ahead of schedule because they're not in full sun, and they really like it that way. So they still get some sun. As you can see, it's heading towards the afternoon now, so they do get sun peeking through, but not a ton, and they like that. They prefer that. Right here is spinach. Now I should have harvested this a while ago because you can see that it's starting to flower. But now I'm just gonna let it go, and I'm gonna see if I can maybe save the seeds. You can see this one over here is starting to kind of produce some flowers and seeds. I'm not sure. I think it's probably still edible, but it wouldn't taste as good as if I picked it on time. So we'll just let this go to seed and see what happens. It's like a little spinach experiment. Over here I have another thing of leaves. I really heavily sowed that pallet, and I probably should have spaced it out a little bit, but we can just come down here anytime and pick some leaves as we want a salad, and we'll be good because there's so much there. And then this pallet right here is kale. Now I can tell lately, this is only in the past like 3 days, somebody's been coming to eat my kale, and I'm not sure who. So I think I'm gonna end up harvesting all of the big kale, and we will probably make some kale chips and then freeze the rest for smoothies. And then this is all kale that I planted from seed, and I'll just let that continue to go. Now over here you can see these huge plants right here are sunflowers. Now let me get a better angle on these. So this right here is my sunflower patch. I don't even know how many I have here, but these are Mammoth Sunflowers, so they probably will get even taller. They might go up, you know, to the middle of the deck. But I really wanted to plant sunflowers just because they're beautiful, but also because we love eating sunflower seeds. So I think it'd be really fun to grow our own. So that's why we planted those. And then right here, I just put my kids' picnic table, but I think maybe next year, if we are still in this house, we don't know yet, I will plant another garden bed like the ones over there, and I will put strawberries. So this will be a little strawberry patch. That's my long-term plan. We'll see if it ever comes to fruition. And then right here in front of the deck, in front of the leafy greens, is where I have my tomatoes that are in pots. So I have 6 tomatoes. I have 2 Better Boy, 2 Roma, and 2 Cherry. Now I am the only one that really likes tomatoes, so I think the majority of these will be turned into pizza sauce, pasta sauce, and ketchup. Something that I can store long term. and that all of us will enjoy. They're not doing too hot. They've curled up a little bit, which is just from stress. I don't think there's really anything wrong besides stress, but you can see a big difference in these plants versus the ones that are over there in the garden. They're just doing way better over in the garden, but I did plant those later, so I don't know. I think maybe being in the pots, they're not holding as much water, so that could be a factor as to why the leaves are curling, but I'm not sure. I'm still getting a ton of fruit off of here. Look at this. Those Romas look amazing, and these are gonna be huge, huge tomatoes. I don't know what that is. Oh, sand. My kids play up on the deck, so sometimes things fall off on here. They had some sand up there, so that's what that is. But they're looking good overall. Like I said, they're producing big time. All these cherry tomatoes, it's gonna be so delicious. I'm so excited to see those turn red and be able to harvest those. This is another area in front of my house that I have an herb garden. So right here I have lavender, I also have some thyme, peppermint, rosemary, mojito mint, and sage there. And the bees love this, and I love it too. I use it all the time. You can see there's a little honeybee on it right now. I don't know if you can see that little guy working, but I just love seeing those bees on my lavender plant. Hello, Mr. Bee. So that is my garden tour. I hope you enjoyed seeing it. If you did, give this video a thumbs up. Maybe I will come out here more often, harvest with you, and you can see me kind of you know, bring it into the kitchen and use it and see what I cook with it, or you know, how I end up storing it for long term. There's different things I've been learning. I love gardening and I love watching other channels. I think I have a dream someday of having a second channel called This Mama's Homestead, where I can share, you know, my garden and my chickens and all that stuff. A lot of you who have followed me for years know that I used to have chickens in my backyard. We're in an HOA now, so that's not allowed. But if I had it my way, this entire yard would be a garden. There would be no grass. I'd have chickens running around. So eventually that will happen. So stay tuned and just keep following me along on my journey. Thanks for being here today, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.